Hello everyone, welcome back to Fluent English. We're so happy you're here with us today. Whether you're listening on your way to work, during a walk, or while relaxing at home, thank you for spending some time with us. Today we've got a topic that can instantly make your English sound more natural and more like the English you hear from native speakers every day.
Hey everyone, it's great to have you with us again. Today's topic is one of those small grammar points that creates a surprisingly big difference in how natural you sound. A lot of learners understand the basic idea, but they don't always know when to use it in real conversations.
That's so true. And honestly, I remember hearing learners say, if not over and over again, even in situations where native speakers would almost always choose another word. It's not a huge mistake, but it's one of those things that can make your English sound a little less smooth.
Exactly. Today we're talking about the word unless. More specifically, we're going to help you stop saying if not every time and start using unless like a native speaker.
By the end of this episode, you'll understand what unless really means, how it's different from if not, and how to use it naturally in everyday conversations. You'll also learn some common mistakes to avoid and get plenty of chances to practice.
And we'd love to hear from you. Before we begin, tell us in the comments, have you ever felt confused about unless? Or have you avoided using it because it seemed difficult? Let us know.
Also, if you're enjoying Fluent English and want more practical English lessons that help you sound natural and confident, don't forget to like this episode, subscribe to Fluent English, and share it with a friend who's learning English too.
All right, grab your coffee, get comfortable, and let's dive into the world of unless and learn how native speakers really use it.
Let's start with the basic concept. The good news is that unless is actually much easier than many learners think. In simple terms, unless means if not.
That's the most important idea to remember. If you understand that unless means if not, you're already halfway there.
Let's look at a simple structure. One common pattern is unless plus subject plus verb result, or result plus unless plus subject plus verb.
Here are some easy examples. Unless it rains, we'll go to the park. We'll go to the park unless it rains. Unless you study, you won't pass the test. You won't pass the test unless you study. Unless she calls me, I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving unless she calls me.
Notice something interesting. In every example, we could replace unless with if, not, and the basic meaning would stay almost the same.
Right, for example, unless you hurry, you'll miss the bus. If you don't hurry, you'll miss the bus. Both sentences communicate the same idea.
Let's make this more personal. Imagine it's Saturday morning and I'm deciding whether to go jogging. I might say, I'm going jogging unless it's raining. That means I'm definitely going jogging. The only thing that will stop me is rain.
That's a great point. Unless often focuses on the exception, it highlights the one thing that could change the situation.
Exactly. Another example from my life is coffee. I usually say, I drink coffee every morning unless I'm traveling. Traveling is the exception to my normal routine.
I'm similar with exercise. I exercise every evening unless I'm feeling sick. Again, being sick is the exception.
Let me ask you something, which sounds more natural. If I am not tired, I will read tonight. Or, I'll read tonight unless I'm tired.
Most native speakers would probably choose the second sentence in everyday conversation. It's shorter, smoother, and more natural.
That's one reason native speakers love unless. It helps us express ideas efficiently.
Let's give our listeners a quick challenge. Complete this sentence. Unless I wake up late, maybe your answer is, unless I wake up late, I'll arrive on time. Or, unless I wake up late, I'll go to the gym. Speak your answer out loud right now.
Great practice. Here's another one. Unless my phone battery dies, can you finish that sentence? Maybe, unless my phone battery dies, I'll call you tonight. Or, unless my phone battery dies, I'll listen to podcasts on the way home.
And here's a question for you. Can you make a sentence about your weekend using unless? Try it now. Maybe, unless it rains, I'll have a picnic. Or, unless I have work, I'll visit my friends.
Now let's talk about negative forms because this is where many learners get confused. A very common mistake is putting another negative word after unless. For example, unless you don't study, you'll fail. That sounds strange.
The correct sentence is, unless you study, you'll fail. Remember, unless already contains the idea of if not. Adding another negative often creates confusion.
Think of it this way. Unless is already doing the negative work for you. You usually don't need an extra don't, doesn't, or won't in the unless clause.
Here's another example, incorrect. Unless she doesn't call, I'll wait, correct. Unless she calls, I'll wait.
That's such an important rule. If you can remember that one point, you'll avoid a very common learner mistake.
Let's do a few more practice questions. Can you complete this sentence? Unless I finish work early, now try this one. Unless my friends invite me, and one more. Unless the weather improves, take a moment and say your answers out loud.
Speaking out loud is incredibly helpful. The more you hear yourself using unless, the more natural it becomes.
And don't forget to leave a comment with one sentence using unless. We'd love to read your examples and see how you're using today's lesson in real life.
So far we've learned that unless basically means if not, that it often sounds more natural than repeating if not, and that we usually don't add another negative verb after it.
Exactly. Keep those three ideas in mind because they're the foundation for everything else we're going to cover next.
Now that we've covered the basic meaning of unless, let's build on that foundation and learn how native speakers use it in more natural and flexible ways. This is where your English can start sounding much more fluent.
That's right. Many learners learn that unless means if not, and then they stop there. But native speakers use unless in lots of everyday situations to talk about conditions, expectations, warnings, and even predictions.
Let's start with expectations. Imagine your friend usually arrives on time. You might say, she'll be here by 6 unless traffic is bad. You're expecting her to arrive. Bad traffic is simply the possible exception.
Here's another one. We'll finish the project today unless something unexpected happens. Again, the speaker expects the project to be finished.
Notice the feeling behind these sentences. They sound confident. You're describing what will probably happen while mentioning the one thing that could change the result.
That's a very common native speaker pattern. You'll hear things like, I'll call you tonight unless I get home really late. The store should be open unless it's a holiday. We're going hiking unless the weather gets terrible.
Let's create a little dialogue. I might say, are you coming to the party tonight?
And I'd answer, yeah, unless I have to work late.
Notice how natural that sounds. Native speakers use this structure all the time.
Here's another example. Are you joining us for dinner? Sure, unless something comes up. That phrase, unless something comes up, is extremely common.
That's a great phrase to remember. If something comes up means something unexpected happens. For example, I'm free tomorrow unless something comes up. I'll attend the meeting unless something comes up.
Let's talk directly to our listeners. Can you answer this question? What will you do this weekend unless something comes up? Say your answer out loud. Maybe you'll say, I'll visit my family unless something comes up. Or, I'll watch a movie unless something comes up.
Excellent practice. Now let's compare formal and informal usage. In casual conversation, people often use short, simple sentences. For example, I'm going unless it's canceled. She's coming unless she's sick. We'll stay unless it gets too late.
In more formal situations, you may hear slightly longer structures. For example, the event will proceed as planned unless weather conditions require cancellation. Or, the application will be approved unless additional information is needed.
The grammar is the same. The vocabulary changes, but the function of unless stays the same.
Here's something interesting. Native speakers often prefer unless because it sounds more direct and efficient. Compare these. If it doesn't rain, we'll play soccer. Unless it rains, we'll play soccer. Both are correct. But many people naturally choose the second version.
Let's do a quick practice activity. I'm going to give a sentence with if not. Try changing it to unless. Ready? If you don't call me, I'll leave.
The answer is, unless you call me, I'll leave.
Great, next one. If we don't leave now, we'll be late.
That becomes, unless we leave now, we'll be late.
One more, if she doesn't study, she won't pass.
Easy, unless she studies, she won't pass.
Nice job. Now let's talk about 3 important tips. First, remember that unless focuses on the exception. Think about what could prevent something from happening. That's usually where unless fits naturally.
Second, don't automatically replace every if not with unless. Sometimes both work perfectly. Sometimes one sounds more natural. The more English you listen to, the easier that choice becomes.
Third, pay attention to common phrases. Native speakers frequently say, unless I'm mistaken, unless otherwise stated, unless something changes, unless something comes up. Learning these chunks can help your English sound smoother.
Here's a fun challenge. Can you create a sentence using one of those expressions? Maybe, unless something changes, I'll finish the project tomorrow. Or, Unless I'm mistaken, today's lesson is really helping.
And we'd love to see your examples. Write one sentence in the comments using unless something comes up or unless something changes. That's a phrase you'll hear all the time in real conversations.
Let's review this section. We've learned that unless often expresses expectations, plans, and conditions. It highlights exceptions, works in both formal and informal English, and appears in many common everyday expressions used by native speakers.
Now let's move on to another important use of unless. This section will help you sound even more natural in everyday conversations, because we're going to focus on situations where people make requests, set boundaries, and give polite warnings.
This is where unless becomes really useful in daily life.
Imagine you're talking to a friend. You might say, "I'm not lending my car unless you drive carefully." You're setting a condition. The action can happen, but only if the condition is satisfied.
Exactly, here are a few more examples. I'm not buying it unless it's on sale. I'm not signing the contract unless I read it first. I'm not going unless everyone else goes.
These examples are everywhere in real conversations. Parents use them, teachers use them, friends use them, managers use them.
Let's create another natural dialogue. Do you want to try that new restaurant?
Maybe, but I'm not going unless they have vegetarian options.
Very natural, or can you help me move this weekend?
Sure, unless I get called into work.
Notice how unless helps us express conditions without sounding rude.
That's an important point. Sometimes direct refusals sound harsh. No, I won't do it. But adding a condition can sound softer. I'm happy to help unless I have another commitment.
That's especially useful in professional situations. For example, I'll be available for the meeting unless another urgent matter arises.
Let's talk about tone. When using unless, your tone can change the meaning slightly. A friendly tone sounds cooperative. I'd love to come unless I'm working. A serious tone can sound like a warning. You won't pass unless you study.
Context matters. The grammar stays the same, but your delivery affects how people interpret your message.
Here are 3 practical tips. First, use unless when setting reasonable conditions. Second, keep the sentence simple. Third, think about real-life situations where you already use conditions in your native language.
Let's practice. I'll give a situation. Your friend wants to borrow your laptop. What could you say? Maybe, you can borrow it unless I need it for work.
Good, now imagine someone invites you to an event. You might say, "I'll come unless I have another appointment."
Here's another one. Your coworker asks if you'll stay late. You could answer, I can stay unless my family needs me at home.
Now it's your turn. Create your own sentence using this pattern. I'll unless, say it out loud, then try another one. I'm not unless.
Speaking out loud helps build automatic habits. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is making these structures feel natural and comfortable.
And don't forget to share one of your sentences in the comments. The more you actively use English, the faster your confidence grows.
Let's finish with a quick structural review. In this section, we learned how unless is often used to set conditions, express boundaries, make polite responses, and give warnings. We also saw how tone and context help determine whether a sentence sounds friendly, professional, or serious.
All right, everyone. We've learned a lot about unless so far, but now it's time for one of my favorite parts of every lesson, common mistakes.
Absolutely, and the good news is that these mistakes are completely normal. Almost every English learner makes them at some point.
Honestly, when I first started helping English learners, I saw the same mistakes again and again. So if you've made any of these errors, don't worry. You're definitely not alone.
Let's start with mistake number 1, using a double negative. Incorrect. Unless you don't study, you'll fail. Correct. Unless you study, you'll fail.
Why is the first sentence wrong? Because unless already means if not. When you add don't, you create an unnecessary extra negative idea. Think of it like this, unless equals if not. The sentence already contains the negative meaning.
Here's another example. Incorrect. Unless she doesn't call me, I'll leave. Correct. Unless she calls me, I'll leave.
Mistake number 2 is using unless when you actually mean a positive condition. For example, incorrect. Unless you want coffee, I'll make some. This sounds confusing.
A better sentence is, if you want coffee, I'll make some. Remember, unless introduces an exception, not a positive requirement.
Exactly, ask yourself, am I talking about an exception? If yes, unless may work. If not, you might need if.
Mistake number 3 is overusing if not. Now let's be clear. If not is not wrong. Native speakers use it all the time, but some learners use it in every situation.
Listen to these examples. If you don't hurry, you'll miss the train. Correct. But many native speakers might naturally say, unless you hurry, you'll miss the train.
Another example, if it doesn't rain, we'll go. Correct, but unless it rains, we'll go, often sounds smoother and more natural.
Mistake number 4 is forgetting the meaning of the sentence. Sometimes learners replace if not with unless without checking whether the meaning stays the same. Always think about the situation first. Grammar should support meaning, not replace it.
Let's compare. If you're hungry, eat something. This is fine, but unless you're hungry, eat something. Now the meaning changes completely.
That's why understanding the message is more important than memorizing rules.
Let's do some quick practice. Which sentence is correct? A, unless you don't call me, I'll wait. B, unless you call me, I'll wait. The answer is B.
Next one, A, if you want help, ask me. B, unless you want help, ask me. The answer is A.
One more, unless it rains, we'll play outside. B, unless it doesn't rain, we'll play outside. The answer is A.
Here's a funny example. Imagine someone says, unless I don't wake up, I'll go to work. That sounds like they're discussing a very unusual situation. Most likely they mean, unless I oversleep, I'll go to work.
That's why context matters so much. A small grammar choice can completely change the message.
And remember, mistakes are not proof that you're bad at English. Mistakes are proof that you're learning. Every fluent speaker made mistakes while learning a language.
Exactly. Focus on communication, practice regularly, and gradually improve. That's how real progress happens.
Now let's move into our interactive practice activity. This is your chance to test what you've learned. We're going to play a simple game called Choose the Correct Sentence.
Situation number 1, you plan to go jogging tomorrow. Option A, if it doesn't rain, I'll go jogging. Option B, unless it rains, I'll go jogging. Both are correct, but option B often sounds more natural in everyday conversation.
Situation number 2, you want your friend to call you before leaving. Option A, unless you call me, don't leave. Option B, if you call me, don't leave.
Option A is correct because you're expressing a condition that must be met before leaving.
Situation number 3, you want to offer help. Option A, if you need help, let me know. Option B, unless you need help, let me know.
Option A is clearly better. We're talking about a positive condition, not an exception.
Situation number 4, you're planning a picnic. Option A, unless the weather gets bad, we'll have the picnic. Option B, if the weather gets bad, we'll have the picnic.
Option A is correct. Bad weather is the exception that could change your plan.
Situation number 5, your boss asks whether you'll attend a meeting. Option A, I'll be there unless something urgent happens. Option B, I'll be there if not something urgent happens.
Definitely option A, it sounds much more natural and professional.
Here's an extra challenge. Try changing these if not sentences into unless sentences. If you don't practice, you won't improve. If she doesn't arrive soon, we'll start. If they don't cancel the event, we'll attend. Speak your answers out loud.
You can also experiment with different levels of formality. Casual, I'll come unless I'm busy. Professional, I'll attend unless another commitment arises. Both are correct. The vocabulary simply changes.
Before we finish, create your own sentence using unless and write it in the comments. Try to make it about your real life. Personal examples are easier to remember.
And remember, real conversation matters more than perfect grammar. Native speakers make mistakes too. Communication is always the goal.
Wow, we've covered a lot today. Let's quickly review what we've learned. First, unless basically means if not. Second, native speakers often use unless because it's shorter and sounds more natural. Third, unless is great for talking about exceptions, conditions, expectations, boundaries, and warnings.
We also explored 3 major concepts. Number 1, the basic meaning of unless as if not. Number 2, using unless for expectations, plans, and everyday conditions. Number 3, using unless to set boundaries, make polite responses, and express conditions naturally.
Most importantly, we learned how to avoid common mistakes, especially double negatives in situations where if works better than unless. You don't need to master everything today. Just try using 1 or 2 new unless sentences this week.
That's exactly how fluency develops. Small improvements repeated consistently create big results over time.
We'd love to hear from you. What's one sentence you can make with unless right now? Write it in the comments and read a few examples from other learners too.
And here's a question for you to think about. What's one English grammar point that used to confuse you but now feels easy? Reflecting on your progress can be really motivating.
If this lesson helped you, please like this episode, share it with a friend, leave a comment, and subscribe to Fluent English for more practical lessons that help you sound natural and confident.
Thank you so much for spending time with us today. Keep practicing, keep speaking, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. Every conversation is a step forward.
We appreciate every one of you. Keep learning, stay curious, and remember that progress comes from practice.
Take care, keep using your English every day, and as always, see you next time.